We're going to go through using the plant tool in VectorWorks. The first thing that you need to do is make sure you've got it activated. So if you come up to Tools, down to Workspace, and then select Landmark Mode, your screen will jump around a little bit. And then you should see that Landmark appears up the top here. If that's not there, you need to go and turn it on. Next thing you'll see is this site planning toolset has tools in it related to plants. And this is where we're going to spend most of the time inside this plant tool. Now we've got the plant tool activated. You notice that the settings change up along the top here. And the one that we're going to look at first is these different insertion modes here. So the first one allows you to put in a single plant. The next one works like the polyline where you can drop in multiple plants and you can either come back to the start to finish or double click somewhere. Next, strings your plants along a polyline and again double click to finish. After this we have a mode where we can draw a boundary and it'll fill the perimeter, the interior of that shape. This one does the same, but it staggers the plants so that they are not in a perfect vertical and horizontal line like this, so it looks a little bit more natural and full. Okay, so they're the general ways that we're going to drop in plants, but what's necessary before we start putting our plants in is that we set up the tool so that the result we get when we drop plants in is what we want. Up here you're going to see a plant tool preferences button. We hit that and it brings up for us a dialog box. What this is about is the aesthetics of the plants that you pop in the future. So there are ways that we can override the settings within an individual plant using this dialog box. So the ones that we're definitely going to want to look at are these render, annotation and tags. And what I would recommend for you is probably that you leave the size as plant definition rather than putting in customs. Now this is a really good teaching point. What it's saying is use plant definition means look to the data within the plant symbols that you've created. So each plant symbol that you create, you can attach data about what plant it is, what size it will be, and things like that. So as each plant's going to be different in size, we want it to look into the plant definition to decide how big to draw the symbol. Same for height if you're using this for 3D work as well. A lot of you probably will be just using this for 2D. Same thing for spacing. So spacing is how much distance between each plant before it puts another one in. And this is best used in the plant definition rather than overriding it here. Under schedule, we're going to find most of the same, that we want to use the plant definition, or we could potentially pop in custom sizes, but this would be only relevant if you were doing sort of like bush regeneration and everything was going to be popped in tubes or something like that. So we're going to go to the ones that I think are most important to change. So underneath render, we have outline and massing. So outline is the lines around the outside of the plant. And if we set this to custom, it means that we can override so that every plant put in our project has the same settings. So we could have no outline, one sketch, so it's an extra line that's a bit wavy, and up to 3. I'm going to set just a tight outline for this. The next one we have is mass plants. This is really helpful. What it does is it deletes the internal lines where plants overlap if they're of the same plant grouping. So I'm going to put this on, and we're going to do this really quickly so that we see an example. So I'm going to pop 2 of this plant in, and they're overlapping. And what you can see here is that it's got a black line around the perimeter, but it's deleted that internal black lines where they would overlap these 2 plants. Very helpful. Next, this one's really important for not taxing your computer too much. So there's a shadow function within here, which is really handy and looks great, but it also slows things down quite a lot while you're drafting. So as a rule, I have this turned off so I don't have to worry about it. And then you can turn it on for your plants once they're in, when you want to get ready for print or something like that if necessary. And we can set up the angles and things like that for it here. So I'm going to turn that off. Next, under annotation, we have tick style. This here is what you see in the center of the plant, and where I am, it's a convention to either do a cross or a circle in the center. I like crosses. I leave circles for existing trees so that I have distinction between the 2. So I'm going to turn that on, and I'm going to set it as a cross. And now the size of this, if you stay between from 3 and down, you're probably going to get crosses about the size that you want. I change these manually after I've popped them in so that I have different size depending on the size of the plant that's going in. So let's set that up, and I'm going to go OK, and I'm going to pop in another couple more plants, and you can see now that it's popped a cross in the center. So every time I change something in this preferences dialog, it's updating how my future plants are going to be visualized as soon as I pop them in. Okay, going back in, I'm going to have a look down further. Plant rotation. Now, if this was for conceptual work, you might want to set this to be randomly rotated so all of your plants didn't look the same and make it feel a little bit more natural. You can also get the diameter to change as well, and the plant height. This is quite handy for conceptual work, but it might also make your planting plans, which are usually quite simple and clear, a little bit harder to read. We're going to move to the tag tab next, and what this is the text that comes off of your plant. Now you might want this at some stages and you might not want it at other stages, and later on we're going to learn about how to turn it on and off. So that it defaults coming on, you need to change display to be either left, right or center, and what it's saying is which direction will it go off of your plant. I'm going to set it to right, and we'll have to manually override things later once we want to neaten things up. So let's go OK, and now you'll notice that when I pop these in, a tag comes off, and it comes off to the right. It's made up of a couple of different things. It's made up of a shoulder line, or a leader line and a shoulder line. The leader is commonly on an angle, and the shoulder straightens up, and then the text starts after that. The next one is class, and you may have gotten to this point in your VectorWorks education without ever even using classes, but they are one of the most helpful parts of this program, and they're really, really helpful for doing plants. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to plant class here, and we're going to change it to be plants, components, tags. This isn't going to make a lot of sense now, but what you need to know is this is a way that we can turn our tag on or off so that it can be either shown as conceptual work or as a planting plan later down the track. And I'll make it more obvious in the next video. Next we have the approach angle. So that is the angle of the leader coming off it. You might have a standard angle that you like, and you may just have to override everything later on. The shoulder is the bit that straightens up before the text, so I'm going to leave that at 0 degrees. Now, this here is the next 4 columns are how the text appears at the end. So this first one are standard ones that are commonly used. So we could put our text within a circle, hexagon, or rectangle. And if we use this function, it'll automatically decide for us that it's going to show the quantity and then an abbreviation for the plant. So I'm going to turn on circle and OK, and I'm going to pop a plant in, and let's do that again. I must have done it twice. You can see that it's got a 90-degree leader line, a 0-degree shoulder line, and then it's put a circle in with the quantity of plants and an abbreviation. This abbreviation is too big for this circle, and we'll learn about how to fix that up later. What you'll also see is it's put text next to it, and we don't want that necessarily. It's one or the other. You can either have a bubble, hexagon, square, or you can have text that's not in there. And let's show you how to turn the other one off now. So if we have the circle or rectangle or hexagon on, then we're going to want to turn off these 3 lines of text. It's either or either. You have this bubble or you have some of these top, center, or bottoms on. So I'm going to turn this to none and go OK, and you'll see that what we get is what we're after, just the bubble with the quantity and the abbreviation. Now let's show you the other method where we don't have it within one of the standardized shapes. What we could do is turn the bubble off, and then we could set different information in here. So I could have the ID in one line, and then in another line I could have the quantity, if I can find it, there we go, and OK. And so what we have now is, rather than having a standardized shape that already determines what goes in, we've selected the information about the plants that we want, and we've divided it across 2 lines. So that one is definitely something where you want to have one or the other. Here we can turn the shoulder line off. So this is the bit that straightens up. You may have situations where you don't want a shoulder line because you think it's going to look neater, or it saves you a bit of space. And I think that's all I'm going to show you for the moment. So hit OK, and now your plants will be inserted to those standards. Watch on for the next video, and we'll look at adding data for individual plants so that you can create the plant that you want.